Transitioning is a lengthy process that varies from person to person. The transition in one's daily life is called re-socialization, and that may or may not be difficult depending on whom you ask. But for Cassandra, she lights up the stage.
This was never the way I planned, not my intention.
If you've ever been to a good show, people enjoy it. You know, I saw people in the crowd clapping and having fun, and to me that was the closest thing at the time that I was going to get to being a star.
Cassandra is unique because she has a lifestyle she loves.
As hard as my life has been at times, and still continues to be at times, I pick myself up.
Normally, people who transition face an uphill battle to feel accepted in the workplace.
First of all, San Francisco is very aware of transsexuals, so they're really good at like knowing who is what and what is what. I generally feel safe when I travel, but I am always aware that something could, all it takes is one person who's bigoted or hateful and it can turn into a bad situation.
What happens in San Francisco are a couple of things, and one is that transgender people migrate here because there's favorable policies and laws in place that will protect transgender people from employment, housing, and public accommodations discrimination.
Making a change physically is one thing, but what about the simple things, like a driver's license or a social security card? In some countries outside the US, getting a new ID card for your gender is not allowed, but in the United States, it can be done.
That arguably sometimes the paperwork is harder to deal with than the actual process itself. There are plenty of doctors available who will prescribe hormones. There are doctors available who have the technology to do the kinds of surgical reconstructions that different people engage in. For me, it was doing things like changing my social security and most recently getting a passport. So in order for me to get a passport to go to Canada, I had to take my old social security card and my old college ID that showed that that was my social security number and my birth certificate that has Mary Lynn Weatherly on it, and I had to draw the paper trail between that person and this person. So essentially, tell the story of my life and transition to an absolute stranger who would decide whether or not I was man enough to get that M on my passport. But I'm really happy to say that I got the passport, 10-year passport with an M, so I'm good.
But how about their family?
I just wanted a regular guy who liked regular sex. And so now, having a sex change, I feel like it's a lot easier if I meet a guy who's, you know, like he just hits on me thinking maybe I'm a girl. And I'm, you know, it's a lot easier to say, well, I've had a sex change versus, hey, I've got what you have, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of them will still want to have sex with me, straight men, but it's a whole nother thing of, do they want to date me? Do they want to introduce me to their friends? Do they want to take me home to mommy and daddy? That's a really hard one, you know, so that is still a huge issue and probably always will be in my life, to find a guy who is comfortable enough and strong enough with himself to deal with the pressure he's going to get from other people by being with me.
Some people lose their families, some people lose their parents, not everybody does. And some of us find other family when we've lost family of origin.
I'm just human. I'm really a lot like you, just like you in more ways than you could imagine.
If we were to look at a system of non-judgment and integration, I think we'd all be a lot less hung up on is it a boy or is it a girl? Because the truth of the matter is I think all of us are a little bit of all of that. And this idea that something is strictly female and strictly male is an idea that we made up, because it only happens with sperm or egg, and everything else is a social construct.
Treat people the way you want to be treated. That whole line has been said over and over and over, but I really wish people would actually do it.
So how many of us thought it was just a surgical procedure? It turns out that the transgender journey can be a social and bureaucratic nightmare too.
Yes, I can't think of anyone more brave than those who have been through this, or more inspirational. Thank you for joining us.